Hi, Captain Jerry Dilsaver here, and I'm back with Nathan Yao this afternoon for another installment of Chatlee's saltwater fishing tips. And if you use these in freshwater, we don't mind. Today we're going to talk about fishing, and you can use this with live bait or with pieces of cut bait, worms, shrimp, whatever you might want to use on the bottom. This is the most basic of rigs. It's called a Carolina rig. It has a sinker that actually moves on the line that goes up to the rod and reel. There is a bead on that line too. The bead isn't there to add color. The bead is there to keep this lead sinker from sliding down onto the knot here where you've tied it to a swivel and chafing that knot and eventually breaking it. The bead's plastic, so it doesn't eat the mono up as much there. Then you have a swivel, a small swivel here. This is a 40-pound swivel. It's all you'll need on this. Then you come to your leader. Now, I like a short leader on my Carolina rig, and it's tied on with a clinch knot on both ends, tied to the swivel here, tied to the hook here. The reason I use a shorter leader is so if I'm using a live bait, he can't swim around a whole bunch and get over and maybe get into the oyster rocks or get around a stump or something, depending on where you're fishing. And then you're sitting there and you finally feel a bite and you set the hook and the rod pulses a couple of times, then goes limp. And when you pull it in, the line's broke because he wrapped it around something that was sharp. So I keep the shorter leader. I have friends that use up to 2 feet. That's going to be your personal preference. I'm here in the Cape Fear area. I use mono for this leader. If you're fishing clear water, you need to use fluorocarbon. We don't have clear water here, so I can use mono, but I don't use clear. I either use dull gray or dull green. They actually disappear in the water faster than clear. Then down on the end, the hook that I like is an Eagle Claw, and it's a LO42. That L in front of it means that it's laser polished, so it's sharp enough out of the box that it will scratch your fingernail. Regular hooks often aren't. And the 042 design is offset. I hope you can see that this comes up and bends over and then kicks back, and it's also a little wider bend than a regular hook. It's easy to put a live bait on this hook, and if a fish closes his mouth on it, you're not going to pull it out without it grabbing something. It might just be a lip or something, but that's why you have a nice drag to fight that fish in. But it'll give you more hookups. I use a size 4 for my prospecting, a size 2 or 1 if I'm flounder or drum fishing and know I'm in those waters. Now, I cast this out and work it. This is a 3/8 ounce sinker. That's what I like to fish with. I like to be in water where the tide's moving and carrying bait, but not going hard. But if the tide's moving a little faster, you put a 1/2 ounce sinker on it. If I get to where a 3/4 ounce sinker won't hold, I move and go to a place where the tide isn't running as strong. And we'll talk about tides in another issue. They're very important. But this is for fishing a live bait or a piece of bait on the bottom. Hey, but what happens when you get to that place you want to fish and you think there's fish there, but you're losing a rig every 3rd or 4th cast? There's just too much structure, oyster rocks, roots, whatever, but you want to fish there. Reach in your tackle bag and pull out one of these guys. It's a slotted cork. I use a slotted popping cork. Not necessarily because I'm going to pop it, but because it's a big cork and it'll support the weight. And put this on the line. You don't have to undo anything. You can just slide it on it and put the stick back in. And now you've got a float rig. Now, I adjust this so that from my sinker to the float is 1 foot less than the depth of the water. If you're not running your fish finder, just take your rod and turn it over and stick the tip down. And when it touches bottom, mark it and come back up and make it a little shorter than that. But you want to keep that bait off of the bottom so it won't hang up in that stuff, but you want it barely above it. That's a double use of your Carolina rig. You use it for fishing on the bottom, and you can move it up with just a cork out of your tackle box real quickly to fish when that bottom is just too nasty to fish on the bottom.